The Reckoning. The Illuminator emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the galactic core, its hull groaning under the strain of the intense gravitational forces. Before them stretched a vista of unparalleled cosmic beauty and danger. Countless stars burned in tight, chaotic orbits, their light distorted by the supermassive black hole at the galaxy's heart. Aria stood at the helm, her eyes glowing with the artifact's power as she scanned the roiling sea of stars. The energy within her resonated with something out there, a faint call amidst the cosmic cacophony. "There," she said, pointing to an unremarkable point of light. "That's where we need to go." Chen's hands flew over the controls, guiding the ship through the treacherous gravitational eddies. "Captain, are you sure about this? The radiation levels out there are off the charts. We'll be lucky if our shields hold for more than a few minutes." Aria nodded grimly. "We don't have a choice. Whatever's out there, it's the key to stopping the Zarkesh. We have to risk it." As they approached their destination, a massive structure began to take shape against the backdrop of stars. It was a space station of some kind, but on a scale that defied comprehension. Vast rings rotated around a central sphere, each easily the size of a small moon. "My God," breathed Dr. Venn, her eyes wide with wonder. It's like nothing we've ever seen. The level of technology required to build something like this." Before anyone could respond, a beam of energy lanced out from the station, enveloping the Illuminator. Aria tensed, ready for an attack, but instead felt a gentle tug as the ship was drawn towards a docking port. "I guess they're expecting us," Shen muttered, his hand hovering over the weapons controls. As the Illuminator settled into the docking bay, Aria felt a presence brush against her mind. It was vast, ancient, and undeniably alien. A voice, more felt than heard, resonated within her consciousness. "Welcome, Chosen One," it said. "We have been waiting for you." Aria turned to her crew, her expression a mixture of determination and uncertainty. I think I need to go alone from here. Whatever's waiting for us, it's connected to the artifact. To me." Chen stepped forward, shaking his head. "Not a chance, Captain. We're in this together." The others nodded in agreement, and Aria felt a surge of gratitude for their loyalty. Together, they stepped off the ship and into the alien station. The interior was a marvel of organic architecture, with sweeping corridors that seemed to shift and pulse with life. As they walked, holographic displays sprang to life around them, showing scenes from across the galaxy, including, to their horror, the ongoing Zarkesh invasion of Earth. They were led to a vast chamber at the heart of the station. There, hovering in a column of energy, was a being unlike anything they had ever encountered. It was composed of swirling light and cosmic dust, its form constantly shifting and changing. "I am the curator," the being said, its voice resonating in their minds. "The last of the precursors, guardians of the cosmic balance. And you, Aria Novak, are our last hope." Over the next hour, the curator revealed a truth that shook Aria to her core. The artifact she had bonded with was part of a vast network created by the precursors eons ago. It was designed to find and empower individuals in times of great cosmic upheaval, preparing them to face the challenges that threatened the balance of the galaxy. The Zarkesh, it turned out, were not the true enemy. They were merely pawns in a much larger game, manipulated by an ancient, malevolent force known as the Void. This entity fed on chaos and destruction, gaining power from the suffering of entire civilizations. "The Void has been trapped for millennia," the curator explained, "held at bay by the network of outposts you've been seeking. But now it stirs, using the Zarkesh as its unknowing agents to sow discord and weaken the barriers of its prison." Aria's mind reeled with the implications. So, all of this, the invasion, the artifact, my powers, it's all part of some cosmic plan. The curator's form shimmered. Not a plan, but a safeguard. The universe has a way of balancing itself, of producing champions when they are needed most. You, Aria Novak, are one such champion. As they rushed back to the frontier, Aria's enhanced senses picked up details she'd never noticed before: the subtle variations in the ice beneath her feet, the complex interplay of gravity from Sechen and its moons, even the faint radiation signatures of the approaching ships. They had barely made it back to the bridge when the unknown vessels dropped out of faster-than-light travel, their massive forms filling the viewscreen. The ships were unlike anything Aria had ever seen, organic-looking, with sweeping lines and pulsing bioluminescent patterns along their hulls. "Hail them," Aria commanded, her voice steady despite the pounding of her heart. For a tense moment, there was no response. Then, with a crackle of static, a harsh, guttural voice filled the bridge. "Humans," it growled, the universal translator struggling to keep up. "You have trespassed in Zarkesh territory and stolen that which does not belong to you. Surrender the artifact and prepare to be boarded." Aria's mind raced, weighing their options. The Frontier was a science vessel, not built for combat. They were drastically outgunned. And yet, she could feel the artifact's energy coursing through her, whispering of untapped potential. "We will not surrender," she replied, surprising even herself with her boldness. "We came in peace, seeking knowledge. We have no quarrel with you." The response was immediate and violent. Energy weapons lashed out from the Zarkesh ships, slamming into the Frontier's shields with devastating force. "Shields at 60% and falling," Chen shouted over the blare of alarms. Aria closed her eyes, reaching out with her newfound senses. She could feel the energy patterns of the Zarkesh weapons, the fluctuations in their shields. With a thought, she interfaced with the Frontier's systems, enhancing them beyond their designed capabilities. "Evasive maneuvers," she ordered, her fingers dancing over the console with inhuman speed. "Reroute all non-essential power to the shields." The Frontier danced between the energy beams, avoiding hits that should have been impossible to dodge. Aria's enhanced reflexes guided the ship with precision that left her crew in awe. "Captain," Chen said, his voice filled with disbelief, "how are you doing this?" Aria ignored the question, focusing all her attention on the battle. She could feel the artifact's power growing within her, yearning to be unleashed. With a deep breath, she embraced it fully. Energy surged from her body, interfacing with the ship's systems in ways that defied conventional physics. The Frontier's shields flared with newfound strength, repelling the Zarkesh attacks with ease. Weapons that had been on the verge of overload now fired with pinpoint accuracy, finding weak points in the alien vessel's defenses. In a matter of minutes, the tide of battle had turned. The Zarkesh ships, caught off guard by the sudden display of power, began to retreat. Their final transmission was filled with a mixture of rage and fear. "This is not over, humans. The artifact belongs to us, and we will reclaim it." As the alien ships disappeared into faster-than-light travel, a stunned silence fell over the Frontier's bridge. All eyes turned to Aria, who stood at the helm, her body still glowing faintly with residual energy. "Captain," Chen said cautiously, What happened to you down there?" Aria looked at her hands, watching as the glow faded. She could still feel the artifact's power humming within her, a constant reminder of how much had changed in the span of a few hours. "I'm not entirely sure," she admitted, "but I think we've just stepped onto a much larger stage than we ever imagined." As the adrenaline of battle faded, the enormity of what had transpired began to sink in. They had made first contact with an alien species, and it had immediately led to conflict. Aria had manifested abilities that by all rights should have been impossible. And now they were in possession of an artifact that an advanced alien race was willing to go to war over. "Set a course for Earth," Aria ordered, her voice heavy with the weight of command. "We need to report this to Central Command immediately." As the Frontier began its long journey home, Aria retreated to her quarters, her mind reeling. She caught a glimpse of herself in the mirror and froze. Her eyes, once a deep brown, now swirled with flecks of iridescent blue, the same color as the energy from the artifact. What had she become? And what would it mean for the future of humanity? As she pondered these questions, Arya couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. The galaxy had awakened to humanity's presence, and nothing would ever be the same again. The resistance. The gleaming spires of New Geneva rose into the crisp morning air, a testament to humanity's resilience and ingenuity. But today, those spires seemed to mock Captain Arya Novak as she strode purposefully towards the United Earth Government headquarters. It had been 6 months since the encounter on Hyperion, and in that time, the world had changed irrevocably. The Zarkesh, true to their word, had not let the matter of the artifact rest. Their ships had been sighted with increasing frequency near Earth's outer colonies, probing defenses and occasionally launching lightning-fast raids. The UAG had managed to keep the full extent of the threat from the public, but rumors were spreading, and fear was beginning to take hold. Arya felt the weight of that fear as she entered the council chambers. The artifact's power still thrummed within her, a constant reminder of the responsibility she bore. She had spent months learning to control her new abilities, but they still felt alien, unpredictable. Captain Novak, Admiral Zeo greeted her, his face a mask of carefully controlled concern. "Thank you for joining us. Please have a seat." Arya nodded, taking her place at the large, circular table. Around her sat the most powerful individuals in the solar system, military leaders, politicians, and scientists, all brought together by the looming threat of alien invasion. "Ladies and gentlemen," began Secretary General Amari, her voice cutting through the murmur of conversation, "we face an unprecedented crisis. The Zarkesh continue to escalate their incursions, and our intelligence suggests they are massing for a full-scale invasion." A holographic display sprang to life in the center of the table, showing a map of the solar system. Red dots representing Zarkesh sightings blinked ominously throughout. "Our current defensive capabilities are insufficient to repel such an attack," Admiral Zeo continued, his expression grim. "We've managed to reverse engineer some of their technology from debris recovered in skirmishes, but we're still years behind." Arya leaned forward, her enhanced senses picking up the subtle undercurrents of fear and tension in the room. "What about the artifact?" she asked. "The power it granted me, surely we can use that to our advantage." An uncomfortable silence fell over the room. Finally, Dr. Elara Venn, who had been part of the original Hyperion mission, spoke up. "We've been studying the artifact non-stop since our return, Captain, but we've barely scratched the surface of understanding it." And she hesitated, glancing nervously at Arya. "We haven't been able to replicate the effects it had on you. You appear to be unique." Arya felt the weight of everyone's stares. She knew some viewed her newfound abilities with awe, others with fear and suspicion. There had been whispers of using her as a weapon, of trying to forcibly extract the artifact's power from her. She suppressed a shudder at the thought. "We can't rely on a single individual, no matter how powerful, to defend our entire species," General Kovacs interjected, his voice gruff. "We need a real strategy, something that can turn the tide against these alien bastards." The debate raged for hours, with various factions arguing for different approaches. Some advocated for a preemptive strike against the Zarkesh, while others pushed for attempts at diplomatic resolution. Through it all, Arya remained largely silent, her mind racing with possibilities that her enhanced cognition presented. As the meeting drew to a close, Secretary General Amari turned to Arya. "Captain Novak, you've been unusually quiet. Given your unique perspective on this situation, what do you recommend?" Arya stood, feeling the eyes of Earth's leaders upon her. "We can't win this war through conventional means," she began, her voice steady. "The Zarkesh are too advanced, too numerous. But they're not invincible. The artifact proves that there are forces in this galaxy that even they don't fully understand." She waved her hand, interfacing with the holographic display through her enhanced abilities. The solar system map zoomed out, showing a wider view of the galaxy. Points of light began to appear, scattered across vast distances. During my communion with the artifact I saw, glimpses of something greater. A network of outposts, similar to the one on Hyperion, spread throughout the galaxy. If we could locate and activate these outposts, we might find the key to defeating the Zarkesh. The room erupted into a flurry of questions and exclamations. Admiral Zao raised his hand for silence. Captain, are you suggesting we divert our limited resources to chase after alien fairy tales when we're on the brink of invasion? Arya met his gaze unflinchingly. I'm suggesting we fight smarter, not harder. A small team, moving in secret, might accomplish what an entire fleet cannot. The debate that followed was heated, but in the end, a compromise was reached. The bulk of Earth's forces would focus on building up defenses and preparing for the coming invasion. Meanwhile, Arya would be granted a ship and a small crew to pursue her theory about the alien outposts. As Arya left the council chambers, her mind already planning the mission ahead, she was intercepted by a familiar face. Chen, her former lieutenant commander, fell into step beside her. "Hell of a meeting, Captain," he said, his voice low. "You really think this wild goose chase is going to save us?" Arya smiled, grateful for Chen's blunt honesty. "I think it's our best shot, Chen, and I want you on my team for this." Chen nodded, a glint of excitement in his eyes despite his skepticism. "Wouldn't miss it for the world, Captain. When do we leave?" "As soon as we can get a ship prepped. We don't have much time." As they walked towards the spaceport, Arya couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Her enhanced senses picked up subtle movements in the shadows, whispered conversations just beyond normal hearing range. The artifact's power thrummed within her, responding to her unease. "Chen," she said quietly, "I think we might have a problem." Before Chen could respond, a figure stepped out from behind a pillar, blocking their path. Arya recognized him immediately, Colonel Vance, head of Earth's Special Operations Division. His face was a mask of cold determination. "Captain Novak," he said, his voice clipped. "I'm afraid I can't allow you to leave." Arya tensed, ready for a fight. "On whose authority, Colonel?" "On the authority of those who believe you've become too dangerous to roam free." Vance's hand moved towards his sidearm. "The artifact's power needs to be studied, controlled. We can't risk it falling into enemy hands." Chen stepped forward, his own hand hovering near his weapon. "Stand down, Colonel. You're out of line." For a moment, the tension was palpable. Arya could feel the energy building within her, ready to be unleashed. But she held back, knowing that using her powers now would only prove Vance's point. "This isn't the way, Colonel," Arya said calmly. "Humanity needs every advantage it can get against the Zarkesh. Locking me up won't solve anything." Vance's eyes narrowed. "And what happens when you lose control? When that alien power inside you decides to take over?" Before Arya could respond, a new voice cut through the tension. "That's quite enough, Colonel." Secretary General Amari stepped into view, flanked by her own security detail. Her expression was stern as she addressed Vance. "Captain Novak has the full backing of the UAG Council. Stand down immediately." Vance hesitated for a moment, then slowly lowered his hand. "This isn't over," he growled, before turning and stalking away. Amari turned to Arya, her expression softening slightly. "I apologize for that, Captain. Not everyone is comfortable with the changes we're facing. But know that you have my support, and the support of those who matter." Arya nodded, grateful for the intervention. "Thank you, Madam Secretary. We won't let you down." As Amari departed, Chen let out a low whistle. "Well, that was exciting. Think we'll have any more assassination attempts before we make it to the ship?" Arya managed a wry smile. "God, I hope not. Come on, we've got a galaxy to save." The next few days were a whirlwind of preparation. Arya's new ship, the ESS Illuminator, was a state-of-the-art stealth vessel designed for long-range exploration and equipped with the latest in human and reverse-engineered Zarkesh technology. Her crew was small but elite, hand-picked for their skills and their ability to think outside the box. As they prepared to depart, Aria stood on the bridge, looking out to the earth below. She couldn't shake the feeling that this might be the last time she saw her home planet. The weight of her mission pressed down on her, along with the constant, pulsing energy of the artifact within her. "Captain," Chen's voice broke through her reverie. "We're ready for departure." Aria took a deep breath, centering herself. "Take us out, Mr. Chen. Set course for the coordinates I provided." As the illuminator broke free of Earth's gravity well, alarms suddenly blared across the ship. Chen's hands flew over his console. Multiple Zarkesh vessels detected. They're on an intercept course. Aria's mind raced. How had they known? Had there been a leak? She pushed the questions aside, focusing on the immediate threat. Evasive maneuvers, engaged stealth systems. The illuminated dove and weaved through space, its advanced stealth technology making it nearly invisible to conventional sensors. But the Zarkesh ships pressed on, seemingly able to track them despite their best efforts. They must be tracking the artifact's energy signature, Aria realized. She closed her eyes, reaching deep within herself. With a monumental effort of will, she managed to suppress the artifact's power, dimming its energy to a faint flicker. Almost immediately, the Zarkesh ship's movements became less coordinated. They began to spread out, searching blindly for their suddenly vanished prey. "I've damped the artifact's signal," Aria explained, her voice strained with effort. "Get us out of here, maximum speed." The illuminator shot forward, slipping past the Zarkesh blockade and into the vast expanse of space beyond. As Earth dwindled behind them, Aria allowed herself a moment of relief, but she knew this was only the beginning of their trials. Over the next few months, Aria and her crew followed the faint trail of clues left in her visions from the artifact. They hopped from system to system, always one step ahead of the Zarkesh forces that seemed to dog their every move. Along the way, they discovered more pieces of the cosmic puzzle: ancient ruins on forgotten worlds, cryptic messages hidden in the background radiation of nebulae, and strange alien devices that responded to Aria's touch. But with each discovery came new dangers. The crew faced harrowing battles with Zarkesh patrols, treacherous planetary environments, and the ever-present risk of Aria losing control of her growing powers. There were times when the artifact's energy threatened to overwhelm her, filling her mind with visions of cosmic wars and long-dead civilizations. Through it all, a resistance movement began to grow back on Earth. Inspired by rumors of Aria's mission and fed up with the UEG's inability to protect them, people began to take matters into their own hands. Underground networks formed, sharing information and resources. Retired military personnel began training civilians in combat tactics. Scientists worked tirelessly to adapt and improve upon the Zarkesh technology they had managed to salvage. 6 months into their mission, as the Illuminator orbited a distant gas giant in an unnamed system, they received an urgent transmission from Earth. The Zarkesh had launched their full-scale invasion. The holographic display on the bridge showed scenes of devastation. Zarkesh ships filled the skies over major cities, their weapons laying waste to humanity's defenses. But amid the chaos, there were signs of hope. The resistance fighters were putting up a fierce battle, using guerrilla tactics and improvised weapons to slow the alien advance. "We're out of time," Aria said, her voice tight with tension. "We need to find the last outpost and unlock its secrets, or Earth is doomed." Chen nodded grimly. "Where to, Captain?" Aria closed her eyes, reaching out with her artifact-enhanced senses. The disparate clues they had gathered on their journey suddenly clicked into place, forming a coherent whole. Her eyes snapped open, glowing with otherworldly energy. "I know where we need to go," she said. "Set a course for the Galactic core. The answers we seek are waiting for us there." As the Illuminator leaped into faster-than-light travel, Aria knew they were racing against more than just the Zarkesh now. They were in a desperate race against time itself, with the fate of humanity hanging in the balance. Little did they know that their journey to the Galactic core would lead them to discoveries beyond their wildest imaginations, and force Aria to confront the true nature of the power she had been gifted, or cursed, with. The stage was set for the final act of their cosmic drama, with the very future of the galaxy hanging in the balance. The Awakening. Captain Aria Novak stood at the helm of the ESS Frontier, her eyes fixed on the looming moon that filled the view screen. Titan's largest moon, Hyperion, hung before them like a pockmarked jewel against the backdrop of Saturn's rings. After months of travel, they had finally arrived at their destination. "All systems nominal," Captain, reported Lieutenant Commander Chen from his station. "We're ready to begin our descent." Aria nodded, a mixture of excitement and apprehension churning in her stomach. "Take us down, Mr. Chen. Nice and easy." The Frontier glided through Hyperion's thin atmosphere, the ship's advanced dampeners absorbing most of the turbulence. As they descended, the moon's cratered surface came into sharper focus. Aria's eyes were drawn to an anomalous structure near the equator, a perfect hemisphere protruding from the icy terrain. "There it is," she murmured, more to herself than to her crew. "The reason we're here." The structure had been discovered by a routine survey probe 6 months ago, its perfect geometry standing out amid the natural formations of the moon. Initial scans had detected no signs of life or active energy signatures, but its mere existence was enough to warrant a full expedition. As the Frontier touched down 1/2 kilometer from the structure, Aria felt a tingle of anticipation run down her spine. She had dreamed of first contact since she was a child, devouring every sci-fi novel she could get her hands on. Now, standing on the precipice of a real alien discovery, she felt a sense of destiny. "Prep the away team," she ordered, rising from her chair. "I want us ready to move out in 15 minutes. The next hour was a blur of activity as Aria led her team across Hyperion's icy surface. The structure loomed larger with each step, its smooth, obsidian-like surface reflecting the stars above. As they approached, Aria noticed faint lines etched into the material, forming intricate, swerving patterns. "It's beautiful," breathed Dr. Ilara Van, the team's xenoarchaeologist. She ran a gloved hand over the surface, her eyes wide with wonder. "I've never seen anything like it. The material, it's not registering as any known element." Aria nodded, her own sense of awe growing. "Can you find a way in?" Ilara studied the patterns closely, her brow furrowed in concentration. After several minutes, she pointed to a particular swirl near the base of the structure. "Here, I think this might be." Before she could finish her sentence, the swirl began to glow with a soft, blue light. The ground beneath their feet trembled, and with a low hum, a seam appeared in the structure's surface. It widened into an aperture, revealing a dark interior. Aria's heart raced as she peered into the opening. "Well," she said, trying to keep her voice steady, "shall we?" The team entered cautiously, their helmet lights barely penetrating the oppressive darkness. As they ventured deeper, the walls began to emit a faint, phosphorescent glow, illuminating a vast, circular chamber. At its center stood a pedestal, upon which rested a small pyramidal object. "Incredible," Ilara whispered, her scanner whirring as she approached the pedestal. "This object, it's radiating some kind of energy I've never encountered before." Aria felt drawn to the artifact, an inexplicable urge to touch it overwhelming her usual caution. "Be careful, Doctor," she warned, even as she found herself reaching out. "Captain, wait." Ilara's cry came too late. As Aria's fingers brushed the surface of the pyramid, a surge of energy coursed through her body. She gasped, her vision filling with swirling patterns of light. Images flashed through her mind: alien worlds, advanced civilizations, cosmic wars, faster than she could process. When the deluge of information finally subsided, Aria found herself on her knees, her team gathered around her in concern. But something had changed. She felt different, stronger, more aware. "Captain, are you all right?" Chen asked, his voice tight with worry. Aria stood slowly, flexing her fingers. She could feel power thrumming beneath her skin, a newfound energy that both exhilarated and terrified her. "I'm fine," she managed, though she was far from certain that was true. Before anyone could question her further, an alarm blared from Chen's communicator. "Captain," he said, his face pale, "we're picking up multiple unknown vessels entering the system. They're on an intercept course." Aria's mind raced, processing the information with startling clarity. "Back to the ship," she ordered. "Now." As the curator spoke, Aria felt the artifact's power surge within her. Suddenly, she understood the true extent of her abilities and the responsibility they entailed. "What do I need to do?" she asked, her voice steady despite the weight settling on her shoulders. "You must return to Earth," the curator said. "There, at the moment when all seems lost, you will face the avatar of the void. The power we have given you, combined with the strength of your people, will be enough to drive it back and reseal its prison." Aria nodded, her resolve hardening. But as she turned to leave, the curator's voice stopped her. "Be warned, Chosen One. The power to save your world comes at a great cost. To fully unleash it may mean the loss of your own humanity." The journey back to Earth was tense and fraught with danger. The Zarkesh seemed to be everywhere, their fleets growing in size and ferocity as they neared the Sol system. But Aria's newfound understanding of her powers allowed her to guide the Illuminator through impossible gaps in the enemy lines. They arrived to find Earth under siege. The skies were filled with Zarkesh ships, raining destruction upon the battered human defenses. But the resistance had not given up. Makeshift fighters darted between the alien vessels, scoring unlikely victories through sheer determination and ingenuity. As the Illuminator dove into the fray, Aria reached out with her mind, connecting with the leaders of the resistance. In an instant, she shared everything she had learned about the void, the true nature of the conflict, and the role humanity had to play. Inspired by this knowledge and bolstered by Aria's powers, the human forces rallied. What had been a desperate last stand became a coordinated assault against the Zarkesh fleet. Aria led the charge, her ship moving with impossible grace as she unleashed the full might of the artifact's power. But even as they pushed the invaders back, Aria sensed a growing darkness at the heart of the Zarkesh Armada. The avatar of the void was revealing itself, a writhing mass of negative energy that consumed everything in its path. Aria knew what she had to do. With a heavy heart, she bid farewell to her crew and launched herself into space. The artifact's power enveloped her, transforming her into a being of pure energy. As she confronted the avatar of the void, the fabric of space-time itself seemed to warp and bend. They clashed in a battle beyond human comprehension, their energies rippling across the solar system. Aria felt her humanity slipping away with each passing moment, her consciousness expanding to encompass the vastness of the cosmos. But she held onto a kernel of her former self, using the memory of Earth and its people as an anchor. In the end, it was not raw power that decided the battle, but the very human qualities the curator had hinted at. Aria's compassion, her hope, and her unwavering determination in the face of overwhelming odds proved to be anathema to the void. With a final titanic effort, Aria drove the void back, sealing the breach between dimensions. The Zarkesh ships, freed from the entity's influence, fell into disarray. Some fled, while others surrendered, their crew awakening as if from a long nightmare. As the light of victory dawned over Earth, Aria felt herself begin to fade. She had won, but the cost had been as high as the curator had warned. Her physical form was gone, her consciousness dispersed among the stars. But even as she prepared to leave her old life behind, Aria felt a tug. The combined hopes and dreams of humanity reached out to her, a lifeline in the cosmic sea. And there was Chen, his mind calling out to her with a strength born of something more than mere friendship. In that moment, Aria made a choice. She had sacrificed her humanity to save Earth, but perhaps she could reclaim a piece of it. With the last of her strength, she pulled herself back, reforming into a semblance of her former self. She appeared on the bridge of the Illuminator, her body translucent and glowing with stellar energy. Chen reached out to her, his hand passing through her ethereal form. "I can't stay," Arya said, her voice echoing with the music of the spheres. "But I'll always be watching over Earth, and I'll come back when I'm needed." As Arya's form faded away, the first light of a new dawn broke over the horizon. Earth had faced its greatest challenge and emerged victorious, forever changed but unbroken. The Zarkesh, free from the Void's influence, sued for peace. A new era of galactic cooperation began, with humanity taking its place among the stars not as conquerors, but as guardians against the darkness that